and the ancestors are looking out for us. God Hayes is exposing them, man.
Okay, you see that chair right there? See how big it is?
Yeah.
Now look at the Pope chair under it. Scroll down, look at the Pope chair under it.
Never have it been made so clear.
Young TV. Young.
We running the game right now.
Young TV.
Time to take over.
Young.
We the hottest in the game. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you just not tuned in.
TV.
Share, like on your Instagram, Facebook.
Young TV.
If you tuned in, we broadcasting live from 2030, baby.
Young TV. Young.
Taking over the game, baby. Oh yeah.
Young TV.
Hit that like.
Young TV.
Get them likes up in the air, you heard me?
Young TV.
Ride by. Hotel Islam.
Young TV.
Assalamu alaikum. Flown lesson.
Young TV.
Let me tell you something. Not only will they persecute you, they'll lie on you. They'll fabricate lies. They'll imprison you and create cases around you. The same way they tried to defame the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and then they tried to defame Malcolm X, and then they even tried to defame Dr. Martin Luther King by some secretary. That's what they'll do. They'll imprison you, and then they'll create lies to turn your own people against you. They'll persecute you after right the same thing. The same way I'm talking to you, they're going to come after me eventually. Believe it. They're going to say, that man is too dangerous. I don't like him. Let's make some lies up on him. Let's turn his people against him. Let's imprison him. And if we can, let's kill him because his people won't help him anyway. And they'll try it. And I'll be at the mercy of the devil because people say, well, won't Allah step in and help you? And I say, did he step in and help John the Baptist? And the answer would be no. He will not intervene at that point. You understand?
As we get started, we would like to point out you must go check out these tapes The Killer Clowns Exposed, because it leads up to this tape explaining what's happening to us on the land and what's happening to the chiefs on the land. These tapes are located on the video side. You can scroll down and watch those tapes. Also, the prison that Dr. Malachi Z York is in is a state-of-the-art prison set up by the Killer Clowns called Florence ADX Supermax Prison. Florence, influence, you ain't put it together, right? The capability to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior, or someone, or something, or the effect itself. So this prison is set up by the Killer Clowns, who are alchemists, keep in mind. And as you notice, looking from a sky view, you can see the 3 pyramids. There's a long story to this, but keep in mind the Killer Clowns are alchemists, and that they protect the North Gate, and they know about us as being the original ancient Egyptians and the original mound builders. So this prison is a United States federal prison set up pretty much for terrorists against the United States by the Killer Clowns. Anybody that becomes a threat to the North Gate, this prison is what they set up for them to be housed at. Might I add that Jeff Fort, who's being held as a political prisoner by the United States government at the same prison, right? And being labeled as a terrorist. Also, may I point out that Jeff Fort has the Fed Zone, the Terry Bush. Keep in mind the connection. And here's the master teacher in court, Dr. Malachi Z York, with the Fed Zone. For you guys that's not up to speed, you need to go back and get this tape right here on the video side and check out and understand the Noble Jew Ali connection with the Marcus Garvey and COINTELPRO operation. Also, you want to get this video right here on the video side because it's a connection between Nuwaubian Ali laying his foundation in Chicago, and Larry Hoover being in Chicago, plus Jeff Fort being in Chicago, because Chicago is considered as the Mecca of the West. So Jeff Fort, Larry Hoover, right, Baba, Dr. Malachi Z York, and other people like H. Rap Brown, Matula, Shakur, people like that, who all been labeled as terrorists, and they're in fear of their influence is being held or was being held by the killer clowns at this facility. Also, people like notorious hitman Wayne Perry, the DC assassin, was being held at this prison at one point before I believe he was transferred to another facility. So this is a state-of-the-art facility for people that's being labeled as terrorists. Let's cut to a clip real quick.
Shut away in a maximum security prison.
This isn't a prison that the inmates run. We run this prison.
At supermax prison in Colorado, known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies. Its infamous inmates include the Boston Marathon bomber, the Unabomber, and the shoe bomber who tried to bring down a plane. Cells are small at supermax. The furniture is made of stone, not metal.
So the killer clowns state this is a state-of-the-art facility in Colorado where the prisoners are held underground 23 hours a day. I think they get to come out 1 hour a day to exercise and like experience sunlight. If they get any mail, if they let them get it, they let them view it through a television screen. They can't actually touch the mail physically themselves. They got to look through a television screen and read their mail. When they do get to come out, they will have to spend time, that 1 hour, right, out of the 23-hour supermax lockdown, they had to spend time in this cage right here for their rec time. Why is Dr.York in prison? It's really dealing around the more science and the Native American stuff and the claiming of our land back. We're about to get more into it though. It also gets way deeper than that, going all the way back thousands of years of them trying to stop us and prevent the rise of a Nuwaubian Messiah.
Just wanted to know, what was he incarcerated for?
Right, he's been incarcerated really for putting out this information. He thought for years that it was something else because they make up lies like they do with all of our teachers. Anybody that has ever come to this planet in terms of like trying to, you know what I mean, liberate us as a people and put information out. Not just even if every other leader, even if you look at like, even Jesus or, do you know what I mean, Muhammad, all of them got killed. Like Muhammad got poisoned. Jesus, as you know, of course, got nailed on the cross. They made up allegations, made up lies, and put him in jail for RICO. The thing about the case is many people don't or haven't taken the time to study the case. Most people know about it through hearsay, you know what I mean? And if you want to learn about the case as much as possible, you can go on freeDrYork.com. We have a legal team and we have people that have been working on the case for over 20 years and they know the case very well. But they tried to say, I'm just pulling up this slide because every single leader that you see on this slide, right, was persecuted, slandered, and killed if they could, imprisoned. So they've got something called COINTELPRO, which their whole thing was fear of the Messiah, because they knew and they know that this time was going to come, where one was going to come, as I read in my introduction, to remind you of who you are, because it's already encoded in your DNA, yeah? Our ancestors, who are the Natharu, they knew this was going to happen in this day and time. So they sent him to come and raise us up, and he's been doing that by answering questions and writing over 1,000 books. So they trumped up charges and said that he was transporting minors across state boundaries with the intentions of doing something which he never did. Now, they made it about children because they know that when you deal with anything to do with children, it emotionally affects people, yeah? And so you will hear on the internet, you will hear people using words like molestation and to do with child abuse and all this kind of stuff. None of that is in the case. None of that has been ever proven. They don't have any DNA. They don't have any. They said they were watching him, and you know, when you're accused of something, they would have, like, the FBI had surveillance watching him for years. Yet in the case, they don't have no video footage. They don't have no evidence whatsoever. But what they did is they used the public and used the media to try and slander and, you know what I mean, let him be made to look like he was guilty when he's not. And over the years, the facts have been coming out of the people who did certain things which they tried to put on him. But if you look at this poster, every single person you can see on there, whether it was Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Noble Drew Ali, Marcus Garvey, Haile Selassie, you know, Ben Yahweh, all of them, all these people, all these black leaders, they were looking for the person that they thought was going to be the Messiah. Just like in the Bible, when Herod thought that, they were saying that this new child is going to be born, he's going to be the king. And he was very, like, scared, because he was like, how are you going to come to my kingdom and don't come and give me any respect? I'm talking about the three wise men, and go and give homage to this little boy that's being born. And he wanted to kill everyone because he was, like, afraid that his throne was, you know, is going to be a threat. So it's the same thing. They set up this organization called COINTELPRO to look out for any black messiah or any person that's going to come and free us, and they eliminated everyone. But the difference is with Dr. York, he was not one of those leaders that just put himself on the top. He taught everyone. So it's kind of too late, because his information's been out there for years, and there are many, many leaders. So did that answer your question? Yeah. So they basically trumped up charges. RICO deals with racketeering and criminal activities, which was really brought about to deal with the mafia, you know what I mean? The mafia organizations, like back in the 60s and America.
Is that RICO?
Yeah, RICO. But anyone who really wants to know the truth about what's going on, they have to research and look into the case and use their own mind. Don't go by the media and go by hearsay, because people will be like, the white man's the devil, they do all of these things, they've killed all our leaders, and then when they're lying on him, all of a sudden some people want to accept what the same person you're calling the devil is telling you, which doesn't make any sense.
I'd rather be dead than to be left in the custody of these irrational people. I've been under the custody of people.
Of course.
It just they have a tendency with a God complex to just totally ignore the statutes of their own government. They didn't say anything. They're letting the sheriff get away just because he's a racist. They just let them do this. And I'd rather not even, I would not want to be under some house arrest with a thing on my leg like an animal just to make these people feel like they're superior. I'm an African, a diplomat with a PhD. They put a fake fabricated a whole BS opera with a fake personality and everything else and lies just to take my land. And that's frustrating. I did 20 years on lies. Those people tried to come back and tell them we were lying. But they didn't want to. No, we don't want to hear that because we want to take his land. You know, the sheriff's mouth was, I finally got that nigger. No, that's what he said.
I remember.
Because he lost cases to me against the land when I filed as a Native American and we got a Native American status under 115. He got mad because he wouldn't tell us what to do on our land. So he just was out to get me. And I said, he's not worth it. So I left and went back to Africa. And he wasn't satisfied with that.
Yeah.
So I would prefer.
70 miles southeast of Atlanta, Eatonton is the seat of Putnam County.
best known as the dairy capital of Georgia.
Oh, they got 400 and something acres. Goes up to that corner yonder.
William Larman is a dairyman, and he's talking about his new neighbors.
Oh, yeah, I'm happy for them.
But they are not dairymen.
Because they said they come from what? Rich. Planet Rich, I think.
It is not a joke to the people who've built these 2 large pyramids and elaborate Egyptian-style ornamentation and put up rows of double-wide homes on some 400 acres of rural Putnam County farmland and woodland.
How many people live here?
Got different families living.
It's a place that granted our request for a visit inside the secured gate, allowed us to watch the workers build new ceremonial structures, allowed us to listen close up to the continuous chant broadcast from a speaker bank at the top of one of the pyramids.
For people that want to get spiritually in tune with the innocent.
But for the most part, sidestepped our requests for answers.
What about the guy from another planet?
We'll make sure you get all the newspapers.
Are they a cult?
Depends on definition of a cult. Certainly there are many characteristics similar with other entities that are defined as cults.
How long you lived here?
About 6-7 months.
Jerry, our tour guide, says he came here from Alabama. The sheriff says most of the other residents come from the Northeast, New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore. How many, including how many children, is unclear.
He's Yanun?
He's known by many names.
The group's leader is identified in literature as Malachi Z York, the Supreme Grand Master. He is described as a charismatic speaker and apparently a prolific writer, producing monthly newsletters and dozens of books.
He says that he is from the 8th planet in the 19th galaxy of Eliwun, a universe far outside of this one. Does it make sense to you?
That's in the book. If he wrote it, then yeah. We're from Orion. Dr.York is from Risk. He's from Orion. What's the deal? It's nothing strange. It's just new to the public.
The vast majority of cults are started by an individual who's extremely charismatic, who's very confident, very commanding, in some cases very demanding, expects an awful lot of the followers.
So this is the Compound nightclub?
No, it's not a compound.
Oh, it's not a compound? I'm sorry.
Not at all.
The centerpiece of the Putnam County property is a nightclub the group opened in October. At midday, it was in high decibel preparation for an upcoming party. Outside, there were parked 3 stretch limousines.
Oh, it's an Egyptian theme park.
This is a theme park?
An Egyptian theme park.
Now, there's some people that think this is a cult.
Well, there's 2 ways to look at it. We don't happen to have a religious belief. You follow what I'm saying? Now, on the other hand, culture, there's a connection there. So if you say we're a cult in the sense of we found a culture that works for us, yeah.
Are they dangerous?
I have no information to indicate that they are dangerous.
What they are is a roadside curiosity to native Putnam Countyans, and to the folks inside the gate, a community with children and entertainment, and an Egyptian theme, and a leader they call Grandmaster, who writes that he's from another planet.
Maybe the spaceship come in here and I could get away with him. With them on it.
You see all that we're building out there?
Yeah.
Does it look like we're going anywhere soon to you? We build it. It's so beautiful out there. It's a beautiful, peaceful environment where we invite any nationality, any race to come out and visit.
Now, before we get farther into the documentary, I just want to break down what the idea that Doc had for the land. He had in mind to try to make his own Disney World, his own Walt Disney World for the children, but for our own culture, which is why he took many trips and took the children's down to Walt Disney World. He was scoping them out to try to see how could he turn his land, the 480 acres at 404 Shirley Dale Road, into his own type Disney World or theme park for ancient Egyptians, the ancient Egyptian of the West, Tamaray, El Kadesh, the Holy Land, right? So keep in mind, he said the plot was to steal his land. Also, it gets a little deeper than that because he also claimed indigenous rights, Native American rights to the land. Also keep in mind, the master teacher wasn't the first one to do it. It's a lady named Empress Virachi or Vatrice who relayed claim to certain parts of the land that was involved in the Louisiana Purchase. The same killer clowns who took down Baba would raid her, right, in the bayous of Makins. Now hold to that, because the word Makins is going to come back up. Also, another chief who they don't really mention that much, by the name of Chief Warhorse, lays claim to 6,800 acres, I think, in Slidell, Louisiana, right? So in 1992, a lot of Nubian or Native Americans who are the real natives started to wake up and begin claiming their land back from United States Corporation. Overstaying overall, the people that took Baba down is the killer clowns who protected the North Gate. Also, might I add, they used another tactic against Baba, which they had set up, called the Cult Busters. This is a systematic machine set up within the COINTELPRO to take down leaders who they deem radical or dangerous or that has too much influence. Hear it? Florence Colorado influence. This system was used to take down beings such as Charles Manson. Y'all remember the Waco thing with the David Koresh guy, right? Y'all remember the guy Jim Jones, right? Who was part of the cult, the suicide cult. Y'all remember Warren Jeffries, the leader of the Latter-day Saints, who had a compound and a cult, is what the word they use, right? Because all of this ties in with Baba case and how they label him under the Cult Busters. You might remember this guy, Samuel Bateman. Some of these people were took down after Baba and some of them before Baba, but they all tie into the Cult Busters program set up by COINTELPRO. You gotta keep in mind how these Luciferians play games with the words. Is it cult or culture? Because cult is short for culture, right? Keep in mind there's gonna be several tapes coming out to this series because they want them done in 30-minute increments. Because this is a long story and the plot thickens. But now we're about to bring on the master teacher and let him begin to tell you and unfold the plot against him and how he was being tortured and pretty much COINTELPRO operations.
Hello? Yes. Yes, is this Mr. Malachi Z York? This is Makul, Chief Black Thunderbird Eagle, Chief of u.s.a Native American Moors of the Creek Nation. I am presently incarcerated in Jones County Jail. It is March the 2nd, 2004, and I'm making this tape to clear up some discrepancies in our tribe, the u.s.a Native American Moors of the Creek Nation. Okay, now do I have permission to tape this interview? Yes, you have permission to tape my interview. Okay, and to make it publicly known what I'm saying. Okay, there are some CDs circulating with other interviews and other conversations that you've done. What is your position on that? Well, what happened initially, we did these interviews, and I was talking to people from the Atlanta Gossip, and I gave them a permission at first, and then the lawyer told us, stop, don't put that out because it can be used against us. And so I told them, I spoke directly to Terry Bodie, and I spoke to her father, and I told them do not put the tapes out. She promised me over the telephone she would not release these tapes. And about a couple of days later, I started receiving letters from different people from Tennessee and different states where they said they heard the tape and they liked the tape, and it was good that I made the tape. And I called in, she told me again she hadn't put the tape out. Then I heard from another person a letter that the tape was on, some of the tape was on the internet, and they put it up there with hip-hop music behind it. So I called again. I told her, don't, she said, she promised me again. I said, it's not about a money thing, right? Because at first we was going to put it out, I figured it would help her paper and get started, because she was trying to get the Atlanta Gossip started. We've been friends for a long time, so I figured I could trust her. And I said, well, you can put this out, and this will help you get your paper printed and everything. I told her to go to the office, get me to know the people, because the paper she would send me to me needed better layouts, get our office was more professional about it. And so I told them not to do it, but they did it anyway. Okay. I'm very disappointed about that. Okay. There's also been some recent arrests and incarcerations of people that are claiming to be u.s.a Native American Moors of the Creek Nation. Are they members of your tribe? Well, we think that's quite convenient that all this time we've been down here since 1993, we don't have all these things. But in the middle of this case, in the middle of the sentencing, in the middle of the trial, people started doing a bunch of crazy things out of nowhere and calling themselves u.s.a Native American Moors of the Creek Nation. I'm not saying been on the land. I'm not saying these people may not have joined one of the many branches of our organization, but by tribe, I know for a fact that the dog was mentioned, a dog, a pit bull was shot, and marijuana was supposed to be involved. Nuwaubians, or the Nuwaubians of the Emancipated Native American Moors Creek Nation, we do not drink alcohol, we do not drink cigarettes, we do not smoke cigarettes, we do not smoke marijuana, we do not use any kind of drugs, nor do we have what we call gins or dogs around our house because of our old culture called Ansar Allah. We never had dogs around our house. You follow? So them people are making those claims. So I know for one that the girl whose name was mentioned on television, who we know is from the Navajo tribe, and the two fellas, I don't know who they are, but I was told that they belong to the Washita tribe of number 215. I think they call themselves Mount Arafat, and they're under Chief Latif, and they're also called Nuwaubians, but I am not over them. I am not their chief. There are many Nuwaubians. I am not the chief or leader of all Nuwaubians. There's Nuwaubians all over the place. There's some Muslims, some Christians, some Yoruba, and some atheists for that matter. And I'm not the leader of all Nuwaubians, nor am I the leader of the whole organization of Nuwaubians worldwide.
Okay. Now, what is the purpose of you putting this tape out today?
Right now, to rectify the mistakes that's going on, there's a lot of gossip and slander going on about parties taking place during the trial and stuff that the devil's doing to cause problems in our tribe. They're doing it now because we have the devil by the tail, and some of his helpers, whether they be black devils or white devils, would like to release him. You follow? And he's getting into the hearts of people, and they're letting the demon mammoths called money in the Bible rule their emotions. And they're now mad at our office, slandering the office, and all kinds of different things just because they was making a couple of pennies off of me. And they pretended they was concerned with my release, when in actuality they saw an opportunity to make some quick money. And that's a very sad thing, because it makes them just as bad as the people who went up and lied on me and put together this plot.
Right. Well, I appreciate your call. This interview that they're about to hear is predated. It actually took place before the trial.
That is it. And we're going to do a tape after that whenever y'all are ready.
Okay.
This is Makul, Chief Black Thunderbird Eagle, Chief of the Emancipated Native American Moors of the Creek Nation, BIA registry number 208/1999. That is when we registered with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Our Constitution of Declaration of Indigenous Status has already been in existence since 1992. Yes, but they refer to me sometimes as Malachi, and even to insult me, Dwight.
So are you saying you were never the name that you were arrested under, Dwight York, is not your name?
That's not my name. And the birth certificate that was issued to me in Roxbury, Massachusetts, as a Massachusetts Indian, by the way, was under the name York. There was no first name on it at all. And that birth certificate is available in several books that I've written. Copies of it with its number, so it can be verified.
And has your genealogy been verified by certified genealogists?
That's correct. We had someone from the Cherokee tribe who's a genealogist. I can't read her name off because, like I said, I've been tortured, so I've been deprived of the right to get to these things. I was only allowed telephone communication within the last couple of months. But yes, I had a Mrs. Robbie Hibner have that investigated for me. They did a genealogy chart, checked back from me to my mother and my father, my grandfather, which is William York, and Carrie, and it went all the way back to Margaret, and then it went straight back to Ben York and the Lewis and Clark expedition, showing that that's the Moorish side of our family, but this Ben York also married Anna Maria of the a Washoe woman that made us Washita, who's under that number, we're 215, 1992, or 1993 if I'm not mistaken. That's our registry number will be there.
Okay, now you mentioned just a few minutes ago about torture.
Yes.
When you were first arrested, you went to the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And is that where the torture began?
It began before that. It began at the arrest. I have witnesses to it. It began in the Baldwin County Mall, shopping mall in open daylight, with them knocking out the windows of a car with the butts of their guns, dragging 3 females as well as myself out on the floor into the glass in the streets. You follow?
Yeah.
And they attempted to arrest us. Nothing on that arrest warrant, to my knowledge, ever referred to me as a dangerous person, never referred to me as an armed person or armed and extremely dangerous, which would have caused for such an overuse of force in the presence of a Sheriff Massey from Baldwin County who stood right there and watched all this abuse.
Now,
that's where the torture started.
Okay, and how many arresting officers were there at that time?
I couldn't see because I was hit so fast. I was hit so fast and hit the ground so fast and was keeping the guns poked at me from every direction. I wasn't allowed to look up. Don't look up. Don't look up. Don't look up. But I did notice as I was being dragged out the car, I looked to my right. I did see Sheriff Massey from Baldwin County standing there.
Now, I've read in many articles that you suffer from a condition called hereditary angioedema.
That's correct.
Now, were you given your medicine at any time?
And they was informed from the time I was arrested I'm on medication, and that I have a chronic disease that 30% of the people that have it die. Right? Especially, and it's really activated from aggravation, frustration, and tension, which couldn't be more expressed by the way we was being harassed and, attacked on the streets there in Baldwin. So when I got up to Atlanta, which is the worst prison in the whole state of Georgia, which has been admitted in the newspapers, right? I told them I needed my medication, that I need this, and they wouldn't give it to me. I kept telling them I need medication. I told them what I had. They couldn't give it to me. Doctors, what they had no idea what angioedema was. So they was running around, a Filipino doctor, an Ethiopian doctor, a Latino doctor. They didn't know what to do, and they wouldn't do nothing about it. That's for sure. So I got locked into a cell, me and 3 other men. One of them was named happened to be Byron Pitt, so I happened to learn that he helped to save my life, in fact, because I was sleeping on the floor. One guy was sleeping on a bunk, another one was sleeping on another bunk, another one was sleeping under the bunk in a 2-man cell up there. Rats, roaches, filth. I mean, it's a mess. The dietary law, the clean, the clothes. They don't get fresh clothes. They're not allowed. The telephone is like 5 minutes, before they cut you off, and you only get that twice a week. You don't really get no access to a library to fight your case. Lawyers are ignoring people and not responding. Garland and them never showed up there except once to visit when they want to talk about money. You follow that?
Yeah.
Never to really go over the case. They send some young kid up there called Charles who would come up there and talk about history and nothing about the case. You follow?
And that's from Garland's firm?
From the Garland and Loeb firm.
Okay. Now, I want to go back just briefly to the medical condition.
Yes.
Do you have your own private physician, and was he allowed to see you at that time?
Yes, I have a private physician who's been my doctor for over 10 years, Dr. William Thompson. And no, he was not given the right to see me. He was blocked. And he called and called every day on the hour, and we have a report of it. However, a strange thing happened. When I got transferred over here to Jones County recently, right, after almost 2 years of this humiliation, there's another inmate here called Gary C. Tatum.
Right.
Who's also classified as a Yamasee Native American Moor of our tribe. And a Nuwaubian, by the way. Right? Dr. Thompson, the same doctor, my doctor, came out here and they called Mr. Tatum out. They didn't say a doctor was here to see him. They just told him to go out there to the front desk. When he got out there, he saw Dr. William Thompson for the first time. And then, the point I'm making, he had access to my doctor, but I wasn't allowed to get access to my personal doctor for over 2 years.
Right.
Officers involved in that was an officer called Mr. Wood, an officer called Mr. Lovett, right, and another one called Kent here. But this place who has an obsession with making me uncomfortable, right? And so they came to me, Mr. Wood and Mr. Lovett came to my cell, A4 at the time, and asked me, do I want to go out and see a doctor? Well, I couldn't say yes because I had recently filed a suit against the doctors of this particular institution. So I wasn't going to go out there and put myself in their hands knowing I just sued them. You follow?
Right.
And so now I was caught between a rock and a hard place. But he never told me my doctor was out there waiting to see me. He asked me, do you want to go see your doctor or go to a hospital? And I said, no. He said, could you please sign that down? I said, yes. At this point, no. And I signed that down. I put under duress under it to let him know I'm being set up. Only later to find out from a letter from my doctor that he had asked the Officer Wood out there, he said, does Mr. York know it's me out there? And Officer Wood lied and told him, yes, Mr. York knows you. He doesn't want to see you. Outright lie. We have it on record. We documented it. And Mr. Tatum also signed his document to verify that he was allowed to see him physically in one day. That's the kind of tortures I've been going through.
Now, it was just passed on to me. There's been letters that were sent from the Department of Justice and the Bureau of Prisons in regards to your medical condition.
Right.
And it states that it's acute hereditary angioedema.
That's correct.
Now, when you went in, it was just hereditary angioedema.
Right. Well, the conditions, the way I've been treated, I've been hoodwinked, I've been shoved, I've been pushed, I've been handcuffed, I've been shackled, shackled to a bed in New York with a black bag over my head by one Caucasian officer who doesn't let the other officers know what he's doing to the inmates up there in 10 South. He walks around with a grin. When other officers walk out, he changes into this demon and does all this demonic stuff to people. Right? Yes.
Okay. Now, you're the only person that's witnessed, I guess, along with Byron Pitts and some of the other inmates that have been there in the facilities with you. What do you feel the reason is why you're going through such torturous treatment and things of that nature?
Well, first of all, because they know who I am. They They know I'm the chief of Native American War. They know that the whole state of Georgia belongs to my tribe and has since 1715, the U.S.A. War. They never expected us to ever stand up again and claim our indigenous status. When I stood up and claimed my indigenous status, the first chance I could really do it was in the small courts of Putnam County by using the word secure party, just to keep the court off balance until I got to the federal court, where on June 30th I made it very clear who I am. I made a declaration of my indigenous status for me and my tribe, our number 208, and they knew that if this jurisdiction goes through, they have no authority over a large group of people that they were calling a Nuwaubian religious cult, which was really a Native American tribe, and only the Nuwaubian part of it was the Masonic Lodge. And they were bending the words, twisting the things for the public to the media, because certainly those media outlets are working directly with them to deceive the public into the point, the impression they're trying to give, as opposed to the truth.
Now, that was a June 30th court date, is that right?
That's correct.
And after that, after you made that declaration, and that is when your defense or the defense attorneys that you very eloquently stated you never hired,
that's correct,
stood up and then wanted to do a competency hearing. Can you explain that?
I don't know why, because I had already been evaluated by Garland's own personal clan of psychiatrists under Dr. Eldridge, which is very important. I mentioned that. You know why? Because recently in the paper, Mr. Rob Peach, I think the day before yesterday, right, mentions in there that a psychiatrist told him that I didn't want to work with the Garland firm, that I didn't trust them, that I knew they was working with SEALs. Meanwhile, the judge the other day in court, Judge Ashley Royal, made a statement that he thinks the letters that I put in to start the proceedings for filing against this firm, the Garland Law Firm, for ineffective assistance to counsel, he said he thinks it's a ploy that I just started that day. And then the following day, make it clear that Rob Preacher comes out with an article stating that he heard it from a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist he's talking about was Dr. Eldridge, and she gave me her so-called evaluation while I was incarcerated in Baldwin County. That's before I even got to New York to be evaluated by the New York City psychiatric department. So she already heard me say I didn't trust him before the so-called plea agreement. Before I already said I don't trust him, I don't want to work with them, and they just kept hiding. They actually shackled me and made me come out to the phone. They would actually come to me and put me in shackles and drive me to the phone and talk to God, while he reiterates, you must take a plea. It's better for you to take a plea. You know, since you're suffering like this, you're facing 1,000 years. I'll never be able to win this case. I've had cases like this before. Why do you let these other girls suffer? Why do you know these people suffer? Don't think about yourself. If you was my son, that I would do this for you, I would tell you to do this. He was working all the time with them, and I knew it. Because I knew they had no case. I knew there was no such thing in those videos. I knew the witness they talked about. I knew this was all a big plot. And he didn't want to fight this case because he was made a deal with them. Took over $1.5 million, as I'm told by my sister, in cash money from our tribe, and flaunted it and didn't even use it. Never intended on having a trial, but intended to put their bogus plea. But they knew I wasn't going to take a plea, so they had to torture me into taking a plea.
Now, in that torture, you were, what was the experience that you learned of the other co-defendants?
I was told that they were being treated the same way I'm treated. And I mean, I was sleeping on a concrete floor with real pork bad food, wasn't getting my medication, watching rats and roach bugs and stuff, in the midst of very dangerous criminals, vulgarity, fights breaking out, people getting stabbed, suicides. I watched 4 or 5 people commit suicide. I was put up in the middle of a riot up in Atlanta, and some Italian guy from the mafia is supposed to hung himself when there was a riot between the Florida boys and the Georgia boys. All this is going on, the black Muslims of, you know what I mean? And I said, yeah, these kids are subject to that. I knew the sheriff how it just feels, right? Got names for these 2 young ladies, which is Chandra Lampkin and Khadija Merritt, out of an AEO magazine that we put out. That's the only people in this case involves 3 people that's in a magazine. That's where he got the names from. He got Johnson's name because Kathy Johnson is standing behind me in the magazine while we're advertising Egyptian attire for our lodge. These other 2 girls are being in there described as looking exactly a replica to the ancient Egyptian deities, right? So that's where he got the Sandra Lampkin, Khadija Merritt, and Kathy Johnson to put the case. And they figured they'll torture them. If I think they're tortured, I know that Kathy's suffering from MS, which is a very, very dangerous disease. I said, they're not giving me my medicine. Hers is brain deteriorating. She'll be crippled for life. They use that, not to mention starvation, sleep degradation, where they kept waking me up, no allowed to telephone calls, interfere with my mail, definitely a poor diet, a whole bunch of things, and just outright vulgar and physical abuse.
Now, prior to this so-called agreement that was given to you,
yes.
What was told to you that about the other co-defendants during this whole torturous experience?
They told me that those people would go home free, totally free. There'd be nothing to be all over it, and you'd be the one that bears the burden. Because after all, you're the trophy that Putnam County wants. The state of Georgia wants you. That's it. The land, they'll leave their people in those land alone, and everything would go away. You know, that's the promises that they were lying. They kept me up for 3 days, Garland's firm, and kept sending in their own psychiatrist, and they kept me up all the way to the day before. I didn't have, but I don't know how many hours exactly. 8.
1 more minute for your call.
I think I had about 8 hours to make a decision on the plea. It wasn't like I had time to go back and forth and evaluate it. No, they kept me up all night with psychiatrist got in and said that next morning, we got to get the plea now, this morning. And my stepdaughter, Michelle York, was there to verify that.
Now, Mr. York, or Chief Black Thunderbird Eagle, as I should say, to show you honor and respect, it just said that there's 1 more minute for your call, but I do have more questions and would like for you to call back if that's at all possible.
I'll call back.
Okay, I'm going to hang up now.
Hey y'all, thanks for tuning in. This series is to be continued. Now we're running a 10K fundraiser for the master teacher. We're trying to raise $10,000 by June 26th, which is the master teacher's birthday. Right? If you want to help us out on that, what you would do is you would cash out Uma, the master teacher's daughter, right? At Uma's York LLC, right? And keep in mind, we working to get the master teacher out, and we need a couple funds to make a couple plays, right? On getting certain things pushed through and moved around, and certain travel expenses to go and get certain things filed. So if you want to help us out and you got love for the master teacher, man, show us some love.